You know that feeling when someone throws a really sharp verbal insult your way?
Oh, yeah, it hits almost like a physical punch.
Right, your heart rate spikes, your defenses go up, and you just want to hit back instantly. So today we are welcoming you to a custom deep dive that flips the script on that exact moment of impact.
Exactly. We are looking at a Taiwanese pastoral message that breaks down the biblical passage of Matthew 5.11.
And looking at this text purely as a masterclass in conflict de-escalation and cultural psychology, I mean, it's pretty eye-opening.
It really is. The source forces us to look at the actual anatomy of an insult. When we talk about verbal abuse here, the original Greek root used doesn't just mean a passing rude comment or, a slight misunderstanding.
It's a lot heavier than that.
Yeah, it implies severe intentional humiliation. It's malicious sarcasm designed specifically to tear you down.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I tend to view that kind of malicious sarcasm as an invitation to step into a boxing ring.
Right, they're essentially trying to provoke a fight.
Yeah, and the natural instinct is to duck under the ropes, get bitter, and start plotting your defense. But taking that bait just validates their attack.
The source actually argues something pretty counterintuitive about why this happens in the first place. It suggests that living a high-integrity life is exactly what attracts this kind of malice.
Wait, really? Doing the right thing draws the attacks?
Yeah, because people are often unsettled when someone's behavior challenges the status quo.
Yeah.
The text points to the historical example of Jesus on the cross saying, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do," to illustrate the ultimate response.
So not defensive anger, but radical forgiveness. But I have to push back a little there, though. That sounds great as a philosophical ideal, but in the heat of a brutal insult.
It feels almost impossible to implement, I know.
Right. I mean, I'm trying to picture how this plays out in an actual messy community rather than just in theory.
Well, what's fascinating here is how the pastoral message provides a really striking historical example from Taiwan to show how it functions practically.
Oh, this is the part about the early converts.
Exactly. When Christianity first arrived there, early converts were hit with a deeply offensive, culturally specific insult. They were told they eat religion, die, nobody cries.
That is incredibly harsh. But looking at the historical context we have here, it wasn't just random bullying.
No, it stemmed from a massive, literal misinterpretation of rituals.
Right, outsiders saw Holy Communion, the taking of bread and wine, and literally assumed believers were eating religion.
And the second half of that insult, the die nobody cries part, carried even more weight in that society.
Because reverence for ancestors is paramount there.
Exactly. Usually demonstrated through maintaining ancestral tablets in the home. Early Christians removed these tablets. So from the outside looking in, it didn't look like a theological shift.
It looked like a profound betrayal of the family.
Yes. The community assumed that when these converts died, they would be utterly abandoned by their kin.
So the insult was born entirely from a clash of worldviews. The surrounding community genuinely believed these people were destroying the cultural fabric.
But here is the historical contradiction that makes this so fascinating to study.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because despite the intense public shaming and these deep cultural fears, the exact same families who hurled these insults actively sought out these Christian men to marry their daughters.
Which makes zero sense on the surface.
None at all. You're publicly calling someone a family-destroying traitor, but privately trying to recruit them as a son-in-law.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it only makes sense when you look at the daily reality versus the rhetorical insult. The families were watching these men closely.
And what did they see behind closed doors?
They saw individuals who completely rejected the typical vices of the time. They avoided smoking and drinking. They practiced strict honesty in business. And they were known for absolute marital faithfulness.
Wow, so their private character was so undeniably solid that it completely overpowered the public stereotype.
Exactly. They didn't stand in the town square arguing about the theological meaning of ancestral tablets. They just lived in a way that made the insult impossible to believe over time.
That is a brilliant strategy.
That's the core mechanism of de-escalation the text is pointing to. You don't argue your way out of severe misunderstanding, you live your way out of it.
So what does this all mean? The ultimate takeaway for you, the listener, whether you're navigating a tense neighborhood dynamic, office politics, or ideological clashes, is that stepping into the ring to trade insults is a losing game.
Arguing against malicious sarcasm rarely works. The consistent, quiet reality of a person's life is what eventually breaks down the hostility.
Undeniable integrity really is the only thing that genuinely changes minds.
Because it shifts the focus entirely away from what the other person is saying and back to what you are doing on a daily basis.
I love that. So I will leave you with this to ponder. If your harshest critics were forced to observe your private daily actions for a month, what would happen? Would your character reinforce their insults, or would it eventually force them to trust you?